Is Joe Namath actually right about something? Did Lambeau Field just save Derek Carr's career? And did college football come up with such an insanely stupid idea that it just might save the sport entirely? This and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive when they called movies picture shows. My dad, Tim.
I wasn't alive then. Your grandparents were.
Let's be honest, you were real excited when Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs first came out.
Nope. Never saw it until much later. I was like Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which I always have to be very careful when I say.
I got in trouble with my mother when I was a kid for saying that movie wrong.
Let's face it, your mom can't complain about language parts of it too much, but
She pretends, but man, when she gets mad, my kids think I yell, and I'm like, you should have grown up. My mother's a great mother, don't get me wrong. She's an amazing woman and an inspiration for sure. But man, that woman could yell. She had lungs on her.
she could. I mean, I'll never forget the first time we took Ryan to church when he was just learning to talk. And they looked down and went, "Oh, what a cute baby." And Ryan looked up and went, "Oh, bullshit."
That was Mom's favorite word.
Yeah, it was. And she just looked around like she wanted to find any hole to crawl into. But
See, when you were growing up, the movies were like this weird animation with people and cartoons, and that was the first thing. Like the one movie my grandparents had was what was that movie with what's his name?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If it's live action with cartoons like Don Knotts with the Incredible Mr. Limpet,
That's the one.
Scary.
Way to read my mind on that one. Holy buckets. Heck, well done.
That's scary.
Teach my wife how to do that.
That was a great movie. Don Knotts, one of my favorite actors of all time. He only wore one suit in all of his TV characters or movies. It was that same suit with the bow tie.
Yeah, they all did. I mean, unless you're Willy Wonka, you wore the same suit in every single movie, which is the greatest movie of all time.
Yes, I know. Well, we'll save that for another day.
We will. I've talked about it enough on this show. But speaking of movies, you know the actor Owen Wilson?
Know him well. Love his movie.
Well, what do you think about in Denver 0-3 Wilson?
Usually they come up with such good puns, but that wasn't funny.
Come on. That I've been holding on to that one for a few days
Of
now.
course you have.
But man, what the hell is going on in Denver?
You know, you've got a quarterback and a coach who are completely off the same page. I mean, they aren't even in the same chapter in the book yet. You've got,
They're not.
I think part of this is karma looking at Sean Payton going, okay, we're going to teach you a lesson. Don't talk about other people when they're not here anymore.
That was garbage.
It comes to a point, they must not have the personnel to run what Sean Payton wants to. At the same time, they have a lot of penalties. Russell Wilson is he's not making the right throws. He's not looking like what should be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I think they have to peel it back, get him to start throwing little 5-yard outs and screen passes just to get him back in the
Yeah, but you have a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl, been to 2, been on winning teams,
Sure.
was a perennial playoff quarterback. You shouldn't have to go back and take baby steps. Listen, I'm going to go on a limb here, but I think it's accurate. Russell Wilson is the worst signing. I know it was a trade, but it was a sign and trade. He is the worst signing since Albert Hainsworth went to Washington.
at this point. He came in.
He doesn't look like he wants to play. It looks like Jamarcus Russell is in Oakland. Like, what? He doesn't even look like he wants to try. It's been bad.
What have I said about Russell Wilson for a long time? He's the guy looking for the bigger, better deal. He came in big-time Denver by having his own office, his own coaches. He needed to come in and just start being one of the guys, and he never does that. Case in point, in Wisconsin, I'm beginning to believe this completely, speaking of movies, Russell Wilson is Bo Callahan.
From draft day.
From draft
You've
day.
made that, since that movie's come out, you've been saying.
It just seemed to be that. You were in Madison at that time.
I lived there when Russell Wilson was there. And let me tell you,
There were rumors.
there were more than rumors. That whole birthday thing and draft day, that's a thing.
Yeah.
That happened in Madison with Russell Wilson. His teammates were not there. Like and again, I am speaking allegedly. These are rumors from living in Madison, knowing people on campus, knowing some players that were there. It's all rumors, right? This is all alleged.
Correct.
I'm making sure I say that. But the alleged situation was that actually happened. He was not on, how do I put this? It just draft day. I mean, it was that phone call of I hear your players weren't at his birthday. Walking through Madison, he was by himself half the time, or with Monty Ball.
Well, and then he had the girlfriend in Madison immediately upon getting drafted by Seattle. She's jettisoned.
For Sierra, I mean,
bigger, better deal.
Yeah.
And granted, it may be, but don't put the girl on draft night.
Right.
If you're going to just get rid of her the next day.
Right.
I don't know. Sam Elliott could have been Barry Alvarez in that scene, but it's playing out that way, and it's sad. I feel bad because I like Russell Wilson as a player. He played Hall of Fame level football in Seattle the whole time he was there.
Well, now he just looks like a lost puppy.
Something's not right.
No, and I don't know what in the world it could be. My question is if this continues, right? Because let's talk about this. I mean, the whole team's bad. They just got blown out 70-20. Like it's a bad situation.
First 70-point game since 1966.
Their third stringers were scoring 80-yard touchdown runs.
They were trying not to score. They were just running the ball.
Right. I mean, people made fun of their coach because they said, well, we're not trying to run up the score. Well, they weren't. Like, they ran the ball the whole second half. They had their backups in as of the fourth quarter. They couldn't stop anybody. My question is, if this continues, you have a Hall of Fame coach. It should be a Hall of Fame coach, and it should be Hall of Fame quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Does this stop them from getting into the Hall of Fame?
I think it's going to be a situation. No, my answer is no. They'll get into the Hall of Fame. But it could just be two personalities that just never click. Like with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, they were lockstep through their whole career. Drew Brees loved Sean Payton. Sean Payton loved Drew Brees. It's not the situation, obviously, in Denver.
But why does Sean Payton get this pass? Because think about it. His head coaching prowess was when Drew Brees was there. And when the team got bad, all of a sudden he's pseudo-retired.
Because it's his first year in Denver. They're going to give him a pass this first year.
But that's never... Why is it with Bill Belichick you get the whole thing of, well, Brady was there? With Mike McCarthy, it was always, well, you have Aaron Rodgers there. Mike Holmgren, before he went to Seattle, it was, well, you have Brett Favre there. You can go on and on and on talking about coaches that say, hey, well, you had a Hall of Fame quarterback. Of course this is happening. Why does Sean Payton not get that? He hasn't had success as a coach without Drew Brees.
I just think he's getting a pass because his first year back as a coach after taking a year off. He's going to get a pass until he gets some. I mean, he walked in with none of his own personnel for the most part. He had to draft a few people. They're going to take time to come around. I think he and Russell Wilson need to go to couples counseling or something.
You just need to cut Russell Wilson at this point and start over.
I don't know that they can do that.
How far do you go down this season before you bench Russell Wilson?
Half season. And I'll put some of the blame on Sean Payton. If he looks at Russell Wilson, he really thinks, unless it's attitude, which could be, but if there is an issue, he has to work with him to get him to come around. And maybe you do peel it back to screen passes. And I know you shouldn't have to with a Hall of Fame quarterback, but
if you have to cut back to screen passes with a quarterback that has won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl, and had multiple MVP caliber seasons,
doesn't have the arm Drew Brees had.
No, but I mean, who does?
I know, but that's part of the problem.
That's not even true. I've seen him. You've seen him throw bombs down the field on a dime.
Sure, but when he was winning in Seattle, he wasn't going downfield all the time. He was
2015 NFC Championship.
Granted, most of the time it was based on running with passing supporting the run.
he could get it down the field. He really could. I mean, I don't buy that at all. This isn't somebody who didn't throw it on a
throwing out
dime.
suggestions. I don't know what's wrong in Denver, other than the fact that it's a train wreck right now.
It's bad, and
It's
they
as
have the
bad
Bears coming up next week, which, speaking of train wrecks,
should be a good, healthy game for Denver, but this is as bad as I've ever seen any organization in my lifetime.
except the Bears. Off on a
Bears.
tangent here, and I want to get back to the Broncos, but
Well,
I'm apologizing to Bears fans at this point. Like, that is a poorly run organization. They don't need to rebuild. They need to build still. They're still at the base of the Lego board, you know? This is not good.
The problem is you've got Virginia McCaskey, who's 98 years old, still the figurehead on top of the team. Her family's running it. I don't think her family really wants to be there. I think they can't wait to sell that team.
Which is fine. That's still no excuse to not be able to draft players and to not have an offensive line.
It is when you're hiring the coaches. They had so many bad hires.
Yeah, that's where quarterbacks go to die. I mean, that's really the situation. But back to the Broncos, I just don't understand how Russell Wilson can go from where he was to where he is unless he's really just not trying.
Look, he big timed him when he came in.
Yeah, he got his own office.
Whatever. I don't know if he can win the locker room back, and that may be part of the problem as well.
I tell you what, as bad as the Jets have been, it is making Nathaniel Hackett not look as bad as people made him seem.
Nathaniel Hackett should not have been criticized in public the way he was.
No.
Because Sean Payton hadn't had any time there. I know he was trying to build up Russell Wilson, but at the same time, you just don't do that in polite society. You don't criticize somebody who's not there anymore. You know, let him go and try to do something better at his next location without taking arrows from someplace else. That is low class.
But listen, speaking of the Jets, Joe Namath came out and spoke. Joe Namath's last public speaking appearance in front of the whole country was not the greatest moment in his life. It is the moment that led him to a sober living after that. But he had some harsh words to say about Zach Wilson.
You know what? No, I didn't take anything positive out of it yesterday. It was awful.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Were you watching? Was anyone watching? I mean, please. When did you ever see well, it's Zach. We'll stay on Zach. You sit down? You sit down on the play? You go right down? What happened? I thought you were trying to win and make plays. You quit on a play? What is going on? It's disgusting.
Harsh words, but Joe Namath is a Jets fan at this point. He's played the position. He loves the Jets.
He does.
I mean,
he's been the Jets for a long time.
Yeah.
He's their last quarterback that they had. I mean, they're cursed since Super Bowl III. I really think that them winning that Super Bowl and the guarantee, Joe Namath must have made some deal with some bad spirit, because they have not. I mean, Vinny Testaverde goes down in the year where they really should have done something. Chad Pennington goes down in the year when they should have really done something. Aaron Rodgers goes down this year. I mean, they are a very, very cursed organization.
But
Zach Wilson looks not
Wilson,
ready.
well,
I feel bad for the kid. I really do.
He wasn't planning on playing at all this year. And next year were his learning years to get him another chance.
Yeah.
Then he gets thrown into this. He hasn't changed that much from last year.
I mean, you're the third year in the league. Like, that's where I get confused.
First year with
you have a rocket arm, sure, but you're an NFL quarterback. Like, you should be able to finish or figure out an offense and schemes pretty quick. Like, that's all you're doing. If you give me an offensive playbook for 3 months and that's all I have to do,
he has no
I can
offensive
figure
line.
that out.
He has no offensive line.
Sure, and you need to design plays for short runs, more running. That's why you have Dalvin Cook and
Dalvin
Cook and the other running back. I can't think of it right now. We need a producer for moments like this when I can't think of names. But you have these two running backs who are amazing running backs in the NFL, and you're not using them enough.
Well,
but the offensive line is really bad.
And the problem is every team knows that they essentially have running backs and not much of a passing game, so they can put 8 in a box to stop the run.
Well, and you have a quarterback that can't make a move that can go down the field, and so you can really stack and blitz. And
Right.
I mean, this is where Nathaniel Hackett really needs to step up, because you have to be able to design plays that help your quarterback with his weaknesses. And it just looks like he's being left out to dry.
And honestly, I don't know how well Aaron Rodgers would have done with this offensive line long term. He would have been running for his life all year.
Yeah, so the Packers in my lifetime have never had an offensive line that's worse than 15th. You know, it's always been a thing that we've held our hats on, is our offensive line is going to be good.
Well, and I'll give you credit for this. What have you always said? When you're building a team, where do you start?
With the offensive line.
Correct.
You start with a good center, and then you get your tackles, and then you get your guards. And the rest of it is a commodity.
And then unfortunately, they don't have that right now. And right now, Zach Wilson is running for his life. I don't think he's the right guy. I think they're doing a disservice. I mean, he's what they've got. So he's going to be there this year. He'll be gone after this year.
Just signed Trevor Siemian to their practice squad. I got to assume he'll be elevated.
I don't know that that's a better choice. I mean, I hear all these. I've heard everything from Ryan Fitzmagic coming back to Carson Wentz. I don't think they're upgrades over Zach Wilson, to be honest with you.
I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick at this point wouldn't be. I don't think he's in football shape anymore. Carson Wentz definitely isn't.
I don't think there's much. Look, you're going to have
Phillip Rivers. I'd bring in Phillip Rivers at this point. Listen, you just need to salvage.
Somebody even mentioned Andrew Luck for going down the Phillip Rivers.
No, if you've number one, he's been out of the league too long. Two, I mean, he's not in football shape anymore.
No.
RG3 could be an answer though.
RG3 has said he doesn't want anything to do with it, but he hasn't gotten the phone call yet. I'd love to see RG3 again, but you know, it's.
I do too. He's the biggest what if player in the world to me.
Well, unfortunately, the Jets are what the Jets are going to be this year.
But they can't be that way. You have to hold on. Aaron Rodgers can come back this year. Again, I've said this before. If you're in the playoff contention in Week 15, Aaron Rodgers is coming back. It's going to happen. But you have to stay in contention. You have to find a quarterback that can hold you over until then.
I think first things first, Nathaniel Hackett is going to have to develop something. But their offensive line has got to be fixed before they can do anything.
I don't know if he has it in him. I really don't. And it's because of the coach that he learned under, which, speaking of bad, what is going on in Green Bay?
Their penalty issues are strictly coaching.
Their penalty issues, their schemes, the way they run the organization. Listen, this coaching is bad. They got lucky.
They did. Well, 17-point comeback.
It's a testament to our new Hall of Fame quarterback, Jordan Love.
Stop it.
It's true.
It was the first time. He's got to do what he did on Sunday in the fourth quarter when he's got the lead. Because we shouldn't have lost against Atlanta.
That's Matt LaFleur's offense. He has the lead, and then he turtles and gets conservative, and it's the worst thing. He quits scoring. It's the worst thing you can do.
Somebody asked me, what do they do with all these constant penalties that the guys just aren't thinking? I said, you do what you do. You run them to death until they get it through their heads. What did I do to you when I was teaching you to play tennis?
Made me run.
Throw up.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
what puking on tennis courts.
That's what they've got to do. They've got to get back to the basics to drill and drill and drill that you do not make those
early Mike McCarthy. Again, I don't include 17 and 18 because that's a albatross in his career. But if you look at early Mike McCarthy, if you look at Mike Holmgren, if you look at Bill Belichick, if you look at any number of great coaches, what didn't they have? Penalties. Mike McCarthy had it earlier in his career when Brett Favre was still the quarterback, and then it wasn't an issue anymore. Like, you weren't playing if you're going to have stupid penalties. Andy Reid, you have their tackle, who, by the way, was made an example of last week. But, I mean, he wasn't in the game. He pulled him. Says, hey, you're going to keep getting flags. We're not going to keep you in there.
Correct. And that's what you've got to do. And that's one of those things that good coaches coach out of their teams. I'll give it, if you can say under 50 yards of penalties in a game, you've done well.
Yeah.
That's not the case in Green Bay right now.
It's not. And this is all a testament to our new quarterback, our new Hall of Fame quarterback. Clearly a Hall of Famer.
Jinxing him.
I'm not
Give him a
jinxing him.
chance.
He's proven at this point he's going to be great. He's a mix between Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and I'm really excited to watch it happen.
He's got to work on his touch.
He needs a deep ball.
He needs to throw to the outside. He's got to.
Yeah, he's got
a lot of things to work on.
But he's doing everything the right way. He's going to be a top 5 quarterback in this league for most of his career. Just give him a couple of years. Anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
But look at him coming out. You want to see leadership. There's a guy who doesn't have his number one receiver, who you should just trade, by the way. If you can't figure out how to play on a hamstring after 4 weeks,
no, it's going to be
you don't need
5.
to be on the team.
He's not playing this week.
Dude.
I mean, really.
That thing better be ripped. Like, if you have a pulled hamstring, I'm sorry. But tennis in high school, I had a sprained ACL, and I was on a court 3 days later. I had an ankle injury where my ankle was swollen 2 times the size before I had a tournament 2 days after, and I played and won, by the way. Thank you very much.
I had a grade 3 sprain on my right ankle, and I was playing within 2 days.
This kid's, 23 years old? It's not like he's 34, right? Today, if I had a pulled hamstring, yeah, I'm going to be out of physical activity for a while. I don't heal as fast.
At this point,
But at 23 years old, come on, get a Toradol shot, get your ass out there and play the damn game.
Go and get T. Higgins from Cincinnati or something. You've got to
Do
just
something.
This guy.
This is getting to be absolutely ridiculous and unacceptable. If you're able to play, you're getting paid millions of dollars. Act like it. Get your ass out on the field and play.
Yeah,
I'm all for players and everything like that. I really am. But at some point, you are getting paid to do a job, and this is where fans get pissed off. You are getting paid to do a job. I don't get to just sit at home and say I'm sick for 4 weeks and steal from my company because I'm not feeling well.
Mark Shimura, who's on the air in Milwaukee that we can listen to, he said it right. You're stealing at this point.
You're absolutely stealing at this point. This is unacceptable. You're getting paid a high amount of money. You need to perform at that level. This isn't okay. But you didn't have Aaron Jones, who they held out. That was medically held out. You don't have Bakhtiari, which that's a whole nother story that's gone national at this point. But you didn't have a lot of and Elton Jenkins is out for
out for a while. I honestly think Aaron Jones and Bakhtiari were held out because it is a short week.
They're going to play Thursday. They need to play Thursday.
Yeah.
You have the Lions coming to town, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But you had 4 offensive weapons, top offensive weapons, not there. You're down 17 points, and Jordan Love finds a way to bring that team. That kid grew up that day.
Look, he's got some receivers. Musgrave has looked good. Reed has looked outstanding. But the one that impresses me the most, the best hands that I've seen in football in a long time, is Romeo Doubs. That guy is a stud.
He's going to be a good player.
He already is a good player. He would be the guy I'd go. I mean, that catch he made in the end zone to win the game was insane.
This is where it gets confusing to me, though, is you have a lot of young guys, right, that are learning and growing. But speaking of penalties, why wouldn't you keep around some of those veteran guys to train?
Well, as we've talked about, as we talked about on the show, you don't have to have all veterans. You don't want to have a bunch of over 30 guys trying to play, but you've got to have a smattering of them in there, like somebody help Musgrave come in. I mean, keeping
Where's Mercedes Lewis?
He would have been a great mentor. If you're not going to keep Devontae Adams, yes, they had Alan Lazard last year, but bring in a veteran that's really a good veteran that can help these younger wide receivers so they're not jumping off sides and doing the things.
Quarterback, I get. Like,
sure,
Jordan Love sat under Aaron Rodgers for a while.
Sure, it's his team.
We don't need a veteran back there. It's your team. You figure it out. But there's no veterans on that team, really. It's one of the youngest teams in the league. It's gonna get interesting when it comes to the Packers to see if they can fix these issues, because if they can't, then the answer is simple. The answer is the head coach. It is Matt LaFleur. And Matt LaFleur needs to be fired, and you need to bring in a coach that is ready for this type of talent.
Because they have a talented team. Their defense, once again, held the opponent to under 20 points. They looked outstanding.
They did.
They've got a great defense, but they're going to have to do something to elevate the entire entire team, and a lot of that comes down to coaching. I've been the one on that, beating that bandwagon for a long time. I don't think Matt LaFleur is up to a head coaching job. I just don't. Speaking of their defense, though, they almost took Derek Carr's season away. And I think if they would have had that game been in New Orleans or on artificial turf someplace, the only reason he's got a sprained AC joint, which is really painful, by the way. And yet he's probably going to be able to, he won't practice all week. He'll have to take a shot if he's going to play on Sunday. But thank God they were playing on grass, because that's the only reason that he's not looking at
continued conversation, because turf is concrete with sand, rubber, and then fake grass. I mean, it's about that much space between you and concrete.
And that tackle, he got driven into the turf.
Yeah, Rashawn Gary threw him down.
Yeah, he did. It was a clean tackle. There was no penalties that should have been called, and there weren't. But he drove him down.
Hurt in football.
Yeah, and he went in. You could see the turf give. He ended up in mud.
Right.
And thank God he's going to be able to play again.
It's again going to be more of the question of grass and turf. And I think at some point you're going to watch the NFL fold on this. I really do. You're going to see too much of a push, and you're going to see every single stadium go to grass within the next 10 years.
Well, look, if they've got the international soccer coming in,
right?
The stadium in, I don't know, MetLife Stadium or whatever it is in New York, New Jersey, they're going to trade out their turf for grass because the international soccer requires it.
Right.
They can do that. They can put grass in for their two teams.
Any place that has grass redoes the sod every single week.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You can't have a bunch of concerts there and stuff like that. Well, boo-hoo.
Well, you can in the off season.
You can in the off season, but like at MetLife, they have concerts like during the week, and then football later on.
If it's NFL, if you're going to talk about player safety,
but they don't care.
Obviously,
they don't. Nobody cares about player safety. Nobody.
They talk about it,
sure, because a movie came out.
Well,
and fans freaked out about it, so they had to look like they were doing something. And I think you're going to see that with grass and turf, though, too. The fans are going to change the way it happens.
There is no reason that they don't put it in there. I mean, and this, as I said, and I'm not going to beat this horse, but Derek Carr, if it's on turf, he's done for the year.
Yeah.
Because he would have separated or broke his collarbone or something. Because it was on grass and dirt, he just got a sprain.
You're not wrong. It's going to get real interesting real fast with that conversation.
I think it saved his career.
I think so, too. You saw the dirt give way. I mean, it's dirt underneath it that's clearly a lot softer than concrete, which is very hard, in case you guys didn't know. Speaking of very hard, it is very hard to win an NFL game.
It is.
And I picked 6 games that I wanted to hear your opinion on. And, of course, you know I love to hear myself talk, so I'm going to give my opinion on it as well. One of the games we've already talked about, 2 bad teams, Broncos at Bears. Who you got?
Honestly, I think it's a good, healthy game for Denver. I think they're going to have a lot of come-to-Jesus' moments this week in camp. I think the Broncos win that game.
If Denver does not win this game, then you need to just restart. You need to, before the trade line, get rid of Russell Wilson, get rid of everything you can for draft picks, and just be bad this year.
But they gave up all their draft picks.
No, that's what I'm saying. Get draft picks back.
Okay. All right.
Trade them for draft picks so you can retrade or you can rebuild your team. Because if you are losing to the Bears, which is honestly the worst team I have ever seen in my entire football fandom, then you have more problems.
I don't know. The Lions were pretty bad for a while.
I've never seen a team like the Bears, though. The Lions, you look at their 0-16 season, right? Quote unquote, one of the worst seasons in football. They should have won 8 of those games. I mean, they were in a lot of those games where the Lions have this weird thing where if something can go against them, it will. Like losing on a record-setting field goal from 66 yards out. Like they just have this aura around them. They were competitive in a lot of those games and could have easily been 8-8 that year.
The Bears are bad from the top of their organization all the way down.
They haven't even been close in any of these games they've played.
Who are you taking?
Oh, Denver.
Okay.
Denver. And for the same reason, if you can't beat the Bears, who are probably the worst team in football history right now, then you got more problems. And you have a quote-unquote Hall of Fame quarterback on your roster, you got bigger problems. The other one I wanted your opinion on, because this is where my football picks could be in danger. You have the Vikings at the Panthers.
This is the Vikings season as far as I'm concerned.
They're 0-3.
They're 0-3. They've got to get right with this game, and I think the Panthers are going to give them all they can handle.
The Vikings, talking about teams, this is where the NFL gets so interesting, because every single game they were like a play away from being 3-0. They really were. They were a play away from being 3-0, and instead they're 0-3. Listen, I picked them to win the division in the North. I still think that's possible.
You picked Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins the MVP. By the way, he's having an MVP season. He's just on a bad team.
Okay.
He's having an MVP season.
And yet he's 0-3.
This is where, again, it's been one play at the end of every single game. It's been one play.
If you're an MVP, you don't let it get to that point.
There's a lot of games left. We got 14 games left.
Keep digging. You may
they could finish 14-3.
Keep
Just
digging.
go on a run.
Uh-huh.
I still think Kirk Cousins has it in him, but if they lose to the Panthers, who may or may not be with Bryce Young, here's my question to you. You have a rookie quarterback, yet Andy Dalton played amazing last
Andy
week.
Dalton.
I do too. If you're trying to win, some people are saying you have to take your bumps and bruises with the rookie quarterback. My thought is you are taking the chance to win every time you can.
Well, and look at how good it's worked out for the Packers to let your quarterback sit for a couple years. Bryce Young has nothing to lose by sitting this year.
Nothing. Just say he's hurt, run with Andy Dalton for a while.
Right.
And build that offensive line before you get your young kid killed.
With Andy Dalton, I think the Panthers can win.
Yeah.
Without him, the Vikings win.
All right. I think the Vikings take it. I really do. Lions at Packers. It's the Thursday night football game. The winner is in the lead of the division in the NFC North. I got crucified at saying the Lions are a third place team, but it's only because the Vikings have lost on 3 straight plays.
I think this is a huge game. This is the first really tough defense. Aiden Hutchinson is going to be in that backfield all night. Jordan Love's going to have to get that ball out fast. He will have Aaron Jones back, I think. I would love to see the Packers win at home. They lost both games to the Lions last year. This is a pick'em game for me. I could see the Lions winning, but I could also see the Packers stepping up.
Listen, I'm a homer, and so the Packers are going to win this game because we have a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I will say, if Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, and Christian Watson are out this week, the Lions will take this. Hands down. It's going to be a good game. I think it's going to come down to the wire, especially on a Thursday night football game with short rest. It's going to be a good battle, and I'd like to see the Packers beat the Lions again like they're supposed to. An interesting one, Ravens at Browns in Cleveland.
In Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, as much as I hate to say it, has looked better than we thought he would. He looked really good last week. I think the Browns win.
Deshaun Watson looked a lot better.
He did.
It is at home.
It is.
Lamar Jackson's not going to keep losing football. This Ravens team is... The issue with this Ravens team is they lost a really big part of their offense in J.K. Dobbins early in the season. Like they were ready to roll with a running game, a passing game, and everything else they have. And the Browns don't have Nick Chubb anymore. I almost dropped this microphone right in my lap. The Browns don't have Nick Chubb anymore. And I think that's going to be a bigger effect. Kareem Hunt is not what he used to be. I think the Ravens come away with the road win on this one.
Okay.
This is a fun one, too. Division rivals, Dolphins at Bills. Dolphins 3-0.
4-0. I think they go into Buffalo, and they are just a team right now. And I hope Tua stays healthy because he's been so much fun to watch. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. They're doing things differently because it's the third year in the system, and they know it, so they can do a lot of extra motion that most teams just can't. I think they go into Buffalo and they win.
I'm going to say this. This is a must-win game for the Dolphins. A must-win game. Because you have speed unlike anybody else, but there will be a time where snow starts to fall. where all of a sudden it starts to get cold and you may have lightning in Miami. But the question is, can lightning run on ice?
Yeah, but can lightning run on ice?
And you're going to start to see that very, very, very soon.
I hope you have the cool running slip for that.
Already there.
Okay.
Can lightning run on ice? It didn't work very well for Jamaica for a while.
But
It
they
really
came back and they did in the end.
No, they crashed.
I know, but
It was a fun story. They crashed.
That was
Because lightning doesn't run on ice.
They crashed because they had a bad bobsled. It was a true movie, completely factual.
100%. 100%. John Candy was the depiction of those coaches in that situation. Yeah, completely accurate. Great movie. Great movie. Disney at its finest by far. But the question is, can lightning run on ice? Because it's going to start to get cold. And I know you can like Raheem Mostert. You can like Tua Tagovailoa. You can like Tyreek Hill.
Buffalo now.
They are. That's what I'm saying. They're lucky. But this is a must-win for the Dolphins. The Dolphins have to win early because they have to fight for that number 1 overall seed. Because if you end up in Cleveland, if you end up in Buffalo, if you end up in Kansas City, if you end up in Cincinnati, if you end up anywhere up north, that speed is not going to translate, and you are going to start to have problems. The Dolphins win this because they have to. Okay. Last game, I want to talk about this one because this is a very, very interesting situation here. Washington at Philadelphia. Commanders at Eagles. Who do you got?
Who? You mean the Washington football team?
Washington football team. I forgot. That is the word we do not use on this show.
I think the Eagles are going to win. I mean, they're on a real short week because they played last night.
They did.
And then they have to play on Sunday, but it's still a shorter week. I just think the Eagles are still the class.
You can try and sell that as a short week all you want, but that is normal football, my friend.
Washington's not as bad as people think. They're going to have some good wins. I don't think it's going to be this one in Philadelphia.
Listen, this is Sam Howell's coming out party. It really is. This is where he needs to show. This is where he's on the road. This is where he really needs to carry his team. The Commanders, the Washington football team, as you like to call them, are sneaky good. Okay. And the Philadelphia Eagles do not look the same like they did last year. They're coming into this with some wins, right? They're coming in Super Bowl ready. But what happens to every team that loses the Super Bowl the next year?
They go down.
They go down. And I think you're going to start to see these Eagles start to have some issues. I think Washington comes into Philadelphia and wins this game.
Okay, so we're different on that game.
Different on that game. We've been pretty similar on the other ones. Different reasons.
Yeah.
But this is where I think Washington comes out. It's going to be an interesting season.
It is.
These games are really getting real, and you have teams starting to separate themselves earlier in a football season than I've ever seen before.
Look, it's a 17-game season. I'm not putting stock into anything that happens. The season starts at Thanksgiving. That's when
you know
really
who has a chance, who doesn't,
right.
who's fighting for number 1, and who's fighting to get in.
And who's getting hot. Because if you get hot at Thanksgiving, you can ride it out through the end of the season.
We've seen it happen several times. The Giants did it for 2 Super Bowls. The Packers did it for 1 Super Bowl. The Bengals did it for a Super Bowl. A lot of teams get hot in November and then carry that in.
So the NFL has been fun. Obviously, college football has been great. I don't know if you heard, I love Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter sends him a text begging him, going, you've got to clear me for this game. There's no way you're keeping me out of this game. And Deion Sanders says to his entire team, I love you more than I love football and more than I love this game.
I need to play this week. We need to get everything we can so I can get back on the field. I'm not taking no for an answer. Who you think sent me that? How did you know that? Because what? No, you ain't ready, and I care about you more than I care about this game. You're going to change the game of football one day when you're healthy and ready. The future is brighter than mine ever will be and ever was. Relax and get healthy. I love you, son. That was the conversation. I care about y'all more than I care about this game. But I want you to learn throughout this game and throughout trials and tribulations who you are.
Perfect answer.
It is.
I love Deion Sanders. That's putting everything in context because no game is bigger than somebody who had their liver lacerated.
No.
He needs to sit out, get healthy. And Deion's protecting not only his career, he's protecting his life.
He is.
Other coaches would clear him.
100%. 100%. Deion's a different character, and he's not winning for today. He's winning for tomorrow. He's bringing other people in. Oregon was ready to go. The pregame speech by the Oregon coach was amazing. But listen, Deion needs the clicks, right? Because he needs to get the recruits.
And he will.
He is. He's got some big boys coming in next year. They're small still. They're small, and they need to get bigger. Deion said that throughout. But something else happened. As we know, Oregon State and Washington State are kind of in no man's land.
All by themselves.
All by myself. Don't want to be. All right. That's my karaoke for the day. Boise State AD came
Hopefully
up with
for
something.
the year.
No. I love to sing. I'm bad at it, but man, do I love it.
Okay, go on.
Boise State AD came out and said Michael Walsh, he came out with a formal proposal. Now, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Came out with a proposal. Do you follow soccer over in Europe at all? Yeah, I don't either. But I understand it enough.
This is a softball rule, by the way. You have two divisions. You've got to be in the.
Let me explain this before you move on.
All right.
So in European style football,
I'm just getting into something people will understand, because if you do soccer, nobody's going to understand.
If you let me explain it, people will understand it. Normally, I'm good at explaining your ramblings, which means I can explain anything.
I'll give you that.
Michael Walsh, the athletic director for Boise State, came up with a formal proposal talking about relegation. Now, in European-style football, they have this in leagues. I don't formally understand this because I really don't follow soccer at all. But basically what it is the good teams are in the top league. If you end up being bad, you get dropped, and then the better teams go up, and you're just going up and down. So if you're bad, you get dropped down levels. If you're good, you get brought up levels, and you have to win at different championships to keep moving up and up and up and up and up.
Just like
right?
Davis Cup in tennis.
Just like Davis Cup in tennis, right? You have to keep moving up.
Bar league softball everywhere in this country.
Yeah, there you go. So Boise State brought that idea in for college football, where basically if you're really bad and can't continue to bring your program up, you're going to get dropped down to Division II. Now, this idea is idiotic. It is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. But it just might work.
It might. The problem is going to be you're never going to get the Big Ten or the SEC to buy into it.
Listen, they're going to break off anyway.
I think they're all going to break off. I told you that a long time ago. The NCAA is no longer going to be managing football. They'll do their own thing.
But think about it. You have a team like Colorado was before, right? Where they were really bad for a long
I
time.
was going to say Wisconsin last year.
Wisconsin wasn't at that level.
Not
like they really weren't at that level.
Northwestern,
Rutgers has been at that level for a long time. I mean, there's very few schools I think you have in Division I that have been at the bottom of the pile for so long. But you have them, right? You have the Rutgers of the
Kansas before
Leopold came in. They were terrible for a long, long time.
They were.
Those are the schools that would be in danger of dropping to Division II and having to win to get back up to Division I. And it puts programs in a situation because there are schools that you could argue that are okay being bad, that are okay being at the bottom of the pile because they're still in a conference, they're still getting that revenue sharing.
Sure.
I think Rutgers is in that way a lot. I'm not a big fan of Rutgers, as we all know. They're a bad team. But yet they still get that same piece of the pie from the Big Ten. So what this does is it incentivizes these teams to put some more money into those programs in order to stay in Division I.
It's an interesting concept. It was well thought out. He's got some points. In real world working, I don't see it as being feasible.
Here's where I have the holes in it, right? This is where I have a problem with this. Is you think money in college football is a problem now?
Yeah.
Make it so you have schools that are about to be kicked out of Division I. You'll start seeing money spent like you've never sent before, or like you've never seen before.
It would be.
You want to see college tuition go up? Like, this is where you have to decide, right? And this is where you have to decide, is college football a separate entity from the rest of the university? Because universities are supposed to be about higher learning. They're supposed to be about getting the best professors and teaching our new age students to be leaders in this world and everything they sell you on. If you go to something like this, what you are saying is that, and it's kind of what already is being said already, that this is not about teaching kids. That is something we talk about doing, but really all we care about is football. And we're going to put all this money into football and not into the higher learning that we should be putting this money in.
Well, make no mistake, though, football funds a lot of things at universities.
They do.
I mean, big time money, so that universities can have this diversity of thought and have people experiment with different ideas. And that's where you test them, is in college, where you can have far right or far left, and you'll be heard without being endangered at schools.
I sense sarcasm.
You think? Anyways,
but on the football.
Football, I remember back when Wisconsin was a bad program for decades. You know, they were in the Rose Bowl in the 60s and then early 60s. And then the biggest thing was the Portage Plumber and the Rufus Shuffle when I was a kid.
Right.
They just weren't a good team until Dave McClain came in and started turning it around. And then Donna Shalala became president, said, we're really blowing this thing up. They brought in Pat Richter as the AD and put a ton of money
I think
into
you've
football.
told this story on every single one of our shows.
I have not done
started.
this. I have not done that. But she realized you had to put in a lot of money to start getting a lot of money out.
Correct.
And it did. It worked.
Right.
They're making money hand over fist. So
But it takes a lot of money to put in those programs. You're going to see some funds go into certain. If you put in this idea, which again I'm not opposed to, in concept I like the idea. In concept, on paper it looks great, but we all know what's on paper versus what's not on versus in real life. It never seems to work out that way.
it doesn't.
And I think you're going to find this in a situation where schools are going to start misusing funds, and UAB would be a great example, right? UAB actually did get rid of their football program for a while and then brought it back recently because it is a bringer of money. But if you all of a sudden tell them they can be relegated to Division II,
You're going to be leading to a lot more SMU situations.
yeah, that's a good way. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to start seeing, I didn't even think about that.
They got the death penalty.
I didn't even think about that.
That's why I'm here.
Because you're old enough to remember this stuff.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you want to start seeing some performance-enhancing drugs come into programs. Man, listen, you can't recruit those kids, but you can sure make them bigger.
It's going to lead to a lot of bad behavior because the coaches are going to become so desperate.
Yeah.
They can't drop the Division II. As you said, it's good on paper. We're never going to see it in practicality.
It's never going to mess with Ohio State, right? It's never going to mess with Michigan or USC or Alabama or Florida State. You know, they'll always be there, right? But you have the schools like Rutgers, like UAB, like San Diego State, right, where they can have some bad seasons and easily drop off. Those are the schools that this is going to affect most of all. And Boise State, by the way, forgets they were there 15 years ago.
They won the Orange Bowl against Oklahoma.
That's where they started to turn around.
Right.
I mean, that was
surprised everybody.
Before that, they were a really bad school for a really long time. And you're going to start seeing coaches. You think the abuse of athletes is bad in college now? Make it so they could all of a sudden start losing Division I status.
Look, I feel bad for Washington State. They have a great team.
Yeah, Oregon State's got a good team this year, too.
They do. But Washington State's got an outstanding program. They will be in a conference.
I think the Big 12's, one of two things are going to happen. The Big 12's going to pick them up. Otherwise, they're going to merge with the Mountain West, which I think is more likely. But this relegation idea, again, it's interesting on paper. It really is a dumb idea when you put it into live action world. Couldn't think what I was trying to say, so those pauses hopefully led to dramatic effect.
Major League Baseball plays softball. Why not use the bar league softball thing in college football?
I just think it's going to lead to some issues because then what happens to the rest of the sports, right?
Right.
Because if you look at big programs, they have baseball, they have softball, they have soccer, they have
Swimming,
volleyball. Do those start getting affected? Like, do you have to drop down all of your sports at that point? How do, you can't lose your football program if you're a place like you mentioned Wisconsin or Rutgers, right? That's where a lot of your money comes into play. So you can't lose that because that supports the rest of your programs. Again, you're going to start seeing some cheating on very high levels if you start to say, hey, we're going to move you guys down if you can't figure this out.
Look, I would like to see something to do. The fact that the Big Ten is a nationwide conference now, and somebody from a team from California is going to have to go to New Jersey if you're the volleyball team or what have you, that doesn't make sense. Or basketball, where they play more than once a week.
Right.
It's one thing for football to do it. They've got to come up with a way, and I hope they will, for their other sports to be available so they don't have that just obscene travel.
Which has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, it doesn't, but it just reminded me of the fact that these conferences have gotten so big and football has driven this so much that other athletes are being affected in a negative way by all this. And I think that relegation would do the same thing. It's going to affect not only football, but it'll affect them on down the line with all the other sports. And there, I brought it back.
That was good. I didn't know where you were going. It was an old person moment for sure. And you just showed you're not quite Alzheimer's yet. Good for you. That was good. Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below about this. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. It's keeping my dad's mind sharp, guys. You see, it's ready to slip at any moment. So keep subscribing, because if we don't get more subscribers, he just may slip into madness. It may look fun for you guys, but I'm the one that's got to change the diapers, okay?
Would you
make sure you subscribe?
Stop. We are at 72,000 plus subscribers right now, so thank you to everybody.
We're really almost to your age. We're getting very close to having the amount of subscribers as your age.
I don't think. I really
good. Hey, you know what? I have to decide if we're going to put you in a retirement home or have you run for politics, because apparently that's an alternative nowadays.
Don't get me started.
It's looking like a senior living care out in Washington right now, and that is not a political statement. That is fact. There are a lot of old people in Congress at this moment.
Way too many. They all need to go. Every one of them.
Love me for my 0-3 Wilson joke, because that's where I stand. We've had a heck of a show.
Yes, we have. I'm going to bring it down to one more notch.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, there was a stat that came out today. Gambling in football is up by 50.
Well, hold on, because this is your last word, right?
It is.
You gotta let me build up to your last. Do you see what he's doing to me?
Right into it this time.
I have a whole setup. I have a whole thing on the show. We've done it since show 4, and we're going to do it for show 100 and whatever we're at now, all right? So,
I had a great segue.
You know what it's like talking with your dad, especially when his mind's going, because when you have a conversation with your dad, it is your father that gets the last word, so it is all you.
Now I have to restart. I segued into it so well. Gambling in football so far this year is up by 56%. This gambling is leading to some really bad things. Everybody talks about alcoholism and drug addiction. Gambling addiction is a real thing. I don't gamble because I don't like losing money, but some people do. And once they start, they can't stop. It is not healthy for football to be into this as deep as they are. I know there are billions of dollars to be made and they're chasing the dollar sign. But then again, they're banning their players for betting on things other than football. There's no consistency, and baseball is another one that's involved in this. We are getting to be gambling. It's one thing for people to play Powerball. You want to spend a couple bucks on it, go ahead. But gambling mortgage money, which is happening all over the country, to try to make up for losses previously, is a dangerous thing. We as a society have to decide whether we're really going to do this with the gambling or if we're going to pull it back. And I want to see the NFL pull back the betting, not expand it. If it's up 56% right now, by the end of the year, it's going to be up by 70%. And that is a dangerous thing. I am not a fan of all the gambling that we're seeing. And I think it needs to stop. Even if we get one of our sponsors to do that. I'll tell them that too.
You know me, I used to be a big poker player.
You were.
You're not going to see arguments from me. But while you were saying that, while you had a great last word, I just watched the dog eat a bug.
Okay.
So,
Good dog.
yeah, I guess.
We're gonna have
Good times.
We're gonna have to introduce the world to Cooper at some point.
No, we don't. We need to introduce less of me to that dog that I didn't want. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.